How's it going, everybody? And welcome to episode 204 of Master My Garden podcast. Now, this week's episode is a good one. It's one we've done before. It's Christmas gifts for gardeners, and it's the 2024 edition. And the first 2 years I did it all by myself and was quite conscious that the gifts that I might pick could be things like rotavators and hedge cutters, leaf blowers, and it's not necessarily a gift that's suitable for all. So last year, we did a really good episode, and I brought in Natasha from DIY and Dreams, and that was, it was good to see that my list wasn't too far off the charts last year, and there was some similarities, but definitely Natasha brought a more feminine touch to the Christmas gifts. So this year I'm joined by two fellow gardeners, joined by Stela and Julie-Anne. Julie-Anne has been on the podcast before, The Soulful Gardener, episode 185. And Stela has been a long-time listener and supporter of the podcast as well. So it's nice to have Buddy on the podcast, and you're very, very welcome to this Christmas Gifts for Gardeners edition.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, William.
So I know Julie-Anne anyway has a long list, a very detailed and researched list, and Stela, I believe, has a list as well. So we're going to get into it. So gifts for gardeners are, I suppose, they're a funny one because we all have gardeners in our lives. Even if we're not gardeners ourselves, we all know somebody who's into gardening. And there's so many gifts that you can get, and there's ones that you can get with such longevity, whether that's, a nice plant, a nice tree, and it's something that will be there for years to come, whether it's perennial that can be divided and moved from one garden to another. There's sentimental attachment there. So there's lots of really nice gifts for gardeners. But we're going to broaden the list this year with different views and different opinions, and we'll chat about each other's gifts. I'm sure there'll be some crossover. I suspect it could be a good bit. But to kick it off, Julie-Anne, if you could tell us a little bit about what you would like as an ideal present, and then maybe give us sort of the first couple off your list.
Yeah, so John, I did make a very comprehensive list, I won't lie. And I started off with tools because I kind of thought every gardener needs a good set of tools. And top of that list was a Felco secateurs. I'm sure you'll agree is a good
Absolutely.
recommendation. Yeah. And the other thing I really felt was important, and I have one myself, and I would not be without it. It's a garden apron. So I wear an apron because I'm quite messy.
Yes.
But you can get a garden belt, for your tools, either at the waist either. But I go for the full coverage. I find it suits me as a person. And just a spade, shovel, trowel. They would be the tools that I would consider are essential and I would actually appreciate as a gift. And now I have all those things, but I would definitely be very happy if I was opening something like that as a gardener in terms of tools for Christmas present.
Yeah, the apron is an interesting one because it came up last year as well, and I know from sort of my day job that gardening aprons are hugely popular in Holland, France, Germany, all those countries, but they don't really take off here, but they are very functional.
Oh, I love it. Like for your ties, even just pulling out a bit of twine and tying something up, and like you've pockets for everything.
Yeah.
Like you've a pocket up here for your secateurs.
Yeah.
And you have a pocket for bulbs and for seeds. I just get it. I'm not walking up and down 100 times to get something. It's all there in my penny. And I just put my hand in and I pull it out. And it's
brilliant.
Great.
I bet you have one, Stela, have you?
Yeah. I couldn't find one in Ireland. It's funny. I bought it in France. It was I bought it. I chose it, and it was given to me as a present because my partner is French. So it was a present from my parents-in-law, and I love it. I think it's amazing. And like Julie-Anne was saying, it's so handy because you go around. You don't need to go back to the shed or to the house. I forgot this. No, you go ready. You go with all your tools and ready for action.
Yeah, they're so popular everywhere, but not here for some reason.
It's a pity.
I don't know what the reason for that is, but they're hugely popular. As I say, I know French companies, German companies, and they're always saying try these, and I've never seen them here. People just don't seem to be interested. But now maybe it's turning, and hopefully they'll be on people's list going forward.
Yeah, mine is waterproof, so I find it even has that benefit.
Oh, yeah.
Like yeah, like I wouldn't be without it. It's really, really practical. It's a great gift, and you could get ones with nice patterns, and I don't know, like for the women out in the garden, John, maybe not the men, the women, I think, would appreciate a nice apron for the garden.
Yeah, well, I've seen some men wearing them as well. I'm not sure they'd wear them here, and I think if any of my friends come in and I was wearing one, I'd have to listen to a lot of stick. But I can see the functionality, and obviously for the ladies, the style is obviously good as well. You mentioned Felco at the start there, and that has been on the list every year. It would always be on my list of tools. And something I like about tools, and I know this is something that you're particularly passionate about, Julie-Anne, is if you're buying a tool, I really don't like buying cheap and cheerful that's going to be thrown out the following year. It's better to have something like a Felco. If you garden for the next 40 years, that tool is still going to be perfect, and somebody will take it on after you, and so I really do think, while sometimes some of those tools are a stretch in terms of budget, they really are worth the spend. And in terms of environmental impact and all of that, it's better quality products are really worth the extra few pound, I think. I think that's hugely important. We'll switch across to Stella now for her first product on our list, or gift on our list.
I'm going to say that, and it's the first on the list, but it's also a tool. I would love to have a copper shovel, because it's like you say, it's the quality, it's the durability of it, that you know that you're going to have it for a long time and it's going to be very useful. And I have to recognize I am a super fan of Charlie Dublin and the No Diggy, and it's always with one of copper, and I say I wish one. I would like to have one.
Copper tools, and they're beautiful. Obviously, they're so beautiful. They are very expensive. Like a good one
That's the problem.
I think I could be wrong, but in the region of €200 for a good quality one, upwards.
Well, I think I saw that is the one that I put in my Santa letter.
In your Santa letter, yeah.
I think Fruit Hill Farm is used. They have someone from €60 or something.
Not too bad, yeah.
I could be wrong, and they changed the price since the last time I saw it. But it's something that you see that you're going to have a quality, and you're going to be able to have it for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's something to have in mind also, of course.
Yeah, for sure. And like, where'd you say, Fruit Hill Farm?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, as I go through the list, that's something I'll be mindful as well, to try and support Irish companies as much as possible.
Of course.
Or for listeners in the US, support local as well. Copper tools are fascinating. I've actually been reading quite a lot on copper generally in the garden and electroculture recently, and there's a lot of interesting things there around that. I don't know if either of you have ever read anything about it, but electroculture is where you have copper in a certain spiral, and you place them in your beds near your plants. And I've seen research on it, and it's phenomenal. There seems to be, obviously, we know the magnetism of the earth, but it seems to be something about harnessing that and then directing it into the root zone of your plants and getting huge benefits in terms of growth, but also pest resistance and all those things. And copper tools play into that a little bit. It's incredible. It's a bit deep now, to be honest. It's heavy stuff, but it is really interesting. And I think copper tools, obviously, for the longevity that you'll get out of them, are a really worthwhile investment. I didn't realize you could get them for kind of €60, so that's definitely a good buy and a good present. Next on your list, Julie-Anne.
I've got down pots, but sustainable pots. So I'm not on about cheap pots. I'm on about going to your salvage yard and buying a big, large pot. Like, my husband bought me an urn for decorating with flowers, and I love it. Like, it's huge, it was big, it was expensive, but I love it. And I think that as a gift for a gardener or a flower arranger, I think it's a good gift.
I find it because the number 2 is the same. Is the pots with the feed for the pots, so you can put it up that is not in the ground with the coal and everything. it's the second in my list. You have, I don't know, it's part of the decoration, and also for the winter, that in the episode, in one of your episodes, you were saying about the winter, the winter garden and how you can cheer up a little bit. I value a lot the pots in color. The house, our outside house color is like a red color. So it's like a wine kind of pots and ceramic and a little bit green. It's giving you a lot of happiness, to go through to look through the window and see a little bit of color, even though it's in a pot. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, to have color around your house and have cheer around your house is brilliant. And the urn that you're talking about, Julie-Anne, was that concrete or metal?
No, metal.
Brilliant. So obviously, again, you're talking about something
Really
that
heavy.
has heavy longevity, something that's going to be there for years and years to come. And if you're looking at that in 30 years' time, and the two of you are pottering around the garden, you'd be able to say, well, that's the pot you bought me for Christmas, and it'll still be there. And I think that's really important. Well, generally it's a good thing when it comes to gifts, but it's particularly nice when you come to gardening gifts. Something with longevity in it, I think, is really good. We're getting quite a few similarities in the list here so far. So Stella, we might go to you for your next one.
Okay, so the number 3 for me is a folder garden seat. I personally have some issue. I have a car accident in the past, so I value a lot to be able to sit in the garden. That is why we have raised beds, because it's more comfortable to work on them. And I find I have one myself, but that is why I recommend it. That depends of the, I think it's for all the ages. It could be for someone like me, or for someone that is older. Have a seat that you can sit down and be comfortable doing your gardening. I don't know, like in winter you can be putting the mulch, and in summer you can be cutting the flowers or planting or whatever you need it, and you are comfortable sitting down, no problem at all.
Okay, so this is one of the garden seats that you actually work on. It's like a kneeler. You're getting the same effect, except you're not kneeling.
But you can sit down on them. You can put them upside down.
Yes,
you can put the knees, or you can sit like a stool or something like that.
Yeah, perfect. And I've seen little ones with kind of wide wheels on them, three wheels, and inside it is a toolbox, and then you sit on it and you scoot along, a little bit like when you're going through the airport and you see the small kids on the little truck getting towed along, a bit like that, except for gardeners. And again, I could understand why that would be useful. I personally wouldn't use it, but I could understand why it would be very useful getting in among the beds if you were pruning or weeding or whatever you were doing, and to have that comfort, and you're not directly down on the ground. And especially if you have had, as you said, an accident and you're not able to be down on your knees or bent over all the time. Yeah, I could see that being a brilliant one. And where have you seen those, or where could people get those, or have you got that?
Well, in my case, I ordered it from Johnstown Garden Center.
Okay, yeah.
Up in the next to Dublin or something like that, during the COVID online, because they have, not everywhere they have them. And recently I saw in the pavilion in Ballygarvan.
Okay, in Cork, in Ballygarvan.
They have it, but in a small version that is like a kind of box, and you can put the knee on the top to work on it or something like that. And also have this stool have like a lateral pockets that you can put the tools when you are working. And this one is small, but has some space to leave the tools also.
Nice one. Yeah, that's a nice one. As I say, I personally wouldn't use that, but I could imagine that would be really useful and really appreciated by people. What have you on your list next, Julie-Anne?
I have a garden hat and gloves. I just find in the summer, when the sun is beating down on me, when we get the sun, that I actually like to have a hat over my head. And it depends on what kind of gardening work I'm doing, but sometimes I'll need gloves, like if I'm roses or whatever, So I think that those two things would be useful.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of the hat, what is it, like a sombrero type? Is it?
Oh yeah, coming right down. You look trendy, but you're also shielded from the sun.
Yeah.
It's a sweater coming down on your face. Yeah, so it's kind of a bit of sun and a bit of, giving you a bit of shade and allowing you to do what you want to do in the garden. Sometimes, if it's like really hot, like
Yeah.
the hat will just give you those extra few moments out there. It'll keep you out there.
Yeah.
And I suppose anything that does that for me as a gardener, it's always a win.
Yeah, well, I actually, it's not a very fashionable one, but I always wear a hat like that at that because I'm not great for putting on sunscreen if I'm honest. So I always find that particularly in the first few weeks, I end up with particularly burnt ears and back of the neck and all that. So yeah, I always wear one of them, and they're great. Yeah. In terms of gloves, is there a particular type of glove that?
Yeah. No, not particularly. Like just something that's thick enough that, like, if I'm working with the likes of roses or that or nettles, even pulling some nettles or whatever, that they'd be thick enough to not penetrate the skin and sting you.
Yeah. And do you wear gloves for all your gardening tasks, or
no.
just tough stuff like that?
Predominantly I would be without gloves.
Yeah.
I do feel it's really important to actually feel that soil,
Yeah.
really connect with it, and I would be someone who's very much into the sensory experience of being in the garden, and I often find that a lot of things, either gloves on your hands, or can almost take you away from that. I would nearly even be barefoot. Like in the summer, I'm barefoot going around the garden to soak it all up,
Yeah.
But no, predominantly I would be just hands in the soil or hands in the seed trays, or just getting the experience of what it is to garden.
Yeah, for sure.
Just dealing with weeds.
I normally don't wear gloves either. I find them very clunky. I sometimes should, though. Last Saturday in particular, I was doing a rather tricky job reinstalling a fence around, and of course didn't wear gloves, was getting stung all day, but I actually had stings and lumps for about 2 days afterwards. And that's genuine. I went out for a meal that night, and my hands were just tingling the whole time, and I was saying, like, how stupid can you get? That I wouldn't just put them on for an hour. And but anyway, that's the way. What about you, Stella? Do you wear gloves while you're gardening?
Depends of the task that I was doing, depends of the moment. And sometimes depends of the time that I have to do something, because, if I am sometimes in my break, I go outside with my tea, but I see something and I say, I have 10 minutes, I can do this. And if I go up inside the house to take the gloves, I lose my time. So I do it without, even though sometimes it will be better, but yes. But in my list, the following thing is funny because I also have gloves, but I have a kind of variation, because in my case, I think, as a gardener, it's a bit tricky, I think, to receive a present from a plant, because you are the one who wants specific plant. So give a present as a plant is a bit a difficult moment there. So I make a variation that to have something for Christmas and not the call voucher, you can give it, for example, like a thick gloves that they have very beautiful with flowers and this kind of thing, especially for roses. And I think, at least because it was given to me a rose plant by, I went to the garden center and I bought it with the person who want to give it to me. And, it was a special moment for me, and it's a memory, and I try to take care of the rose every year, happy to see it back in bloom. So I thought that perhaps like a beautiful thick gloves for roses and a voucher for a day out, in a garden center for a coffee, cake, and buying a rose together, it will be a nice present for someone to receive, I think.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to gloves, like there's a multitude of them, obviously, and some of them are very general purpose, and typically they're only okay for a handful of things. But really, if somebody is a glove wearer, you probably need 3 pairs of gloves. You need something that's maybe really tactile for doing like nitty things, like pricking out or taking cuttings or whatever. Then you probably need something a little bit tougher for the general digging and so on. And then obviously something long-handed and thorn-proof for roses and pulling nettles, that type of thing. So there's probably different ones you can use. But the plant one is interesting. As a gardener, Julie-Anne, would you like to receive a plant as a gift without any hints being given? That says it all.
I had to think about this earlier, and I thought I would always welcome a plant.
Yes.
But I think it would mean more to me if I had a connection with that plant and a person.
Yeah.
So, for example, my grandmother always loved snowdrops. It was her flower, it was her spring bulb, and she just loved snowdrops. So if someone gave me a gift of snowdrops, like that would instantly bring me back to Granny, and I would love it.
Yeah.
So if it's connected to a person and it brings me to a certain time and place, I would adore it. If it's something where someone thought, I think you might like that, but I wasn't sure, would it have the same value? I'd love it. I'd never say no to a plant, but one with a connection with a person would mean more.
That makes sense, because we actually spoke about this last year, and in the previous year when I was talking about Christmas gifts for gardeners, I did mention a nice tree or a David Austin rose, or something like that. And what prompted me to add the next bit was, I remember being in one of the best open gardens in Ireland. I won't name the garden in case the person happened to be listening and had given the gift. But anyway, this gardener, who is one of the best gardeners in Ireland, if not the best gardener in Ireland, had received a gift of a really nice and quite expensive plant, but they didn't like it. They didn't really want it, but because it was gifted, it had to be planted. And it got planted somewhere where the person didn't have to look at it very often. And I commented while there that it was a spectacular tree, and it was, but the person didn't want it. And that makes sense, because somebody thought this person is a great gardener, or in Stella's case or your case, Julie-Anne, this person likes gardening, let's buy them a plant.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is, if you know there's a connection, like snowdrops, well then I think Julie-Anne's grandmother likes snowdrops, grew a lot of snowdrops. I think that would be a nice present for. So you're given a gift with a little bit of a insight, I guess.
Yeah.
And I think that would be the only way a plant would be acceptable to a gardener. Would you agree, Stella?
Totally. If someone is giving me, I don't know, if they know me and perhaps some kind of comment that I have done, or the plants that I like it, or I don't know, make my connection with certain plants. I don't know. I was in a workshop with Klaus Leitenberg. I always pronounce incorrectly the surname, and he was checking about herbs and this kind of things. I don't know, for me, the lemon verbena is giving me a lot of memories to my grandmother. So that someone is bringing me something like that, a plant that it was a meaning, or that is bringing me memories from, I originally from Galicia, from the north of Spain, that is very similar to Ireland. So the climate more or less is similar. So a plant that is living there, it could be that there is a high possibility that perhaps it's surviving here in Ireland too. It's going to bring memories to me. There are a lot of plants in my garden that they were in my grandmother's farm before, when I was a kid. So if someone knows me and bring me something like that, it will be, amazing, of course.
Yeah, so it's like a plant with a deeper meaning, I guess.
Yes, totally.
To take a little bit of a segue, just because you mentioned them there a second ago, what do you guys think of gardening books as Christmas presents?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes, I have a few in my list here with me.
Okay,
just to show you.
Brilliant. So it's a funny thing, like books, magazines, I think generally, obviously, books are still selling very well, but a lot of information, and when somebody is looking up, I don't know, I guess a hobby of any sort, they tend to go to YouTube and Google and so on now. More so, but I think in gardening, it seems to be less so, because I do think it's really important now to still have good gardening books, and they are still really popular. And you mentioned Klaus Leitenberger, 2 of his books I have on the desk here, and would definitely rate them for anybody that is interested in growing their own vegetables, fruit. The 2 that I've just shown, one is a vegetable garden handbook. It's a really simple one. The other one is for vegetable and fruit growing in a polytunnel. again, really relatable to Ireland and really useful, and there's no waffle in it. It's just very straight to the point and clear information, and I find those very good books. What would your book of choice be, Stella?
Well, you know, from him, I totally recommend For the Irish Garden, especially if you are a foreign person like myself, that you don't know the weather, and you don't know how it's going to adapt. It's a way to know a bit about, you know, a little bit how to grow in Ireland, what kind of peculiarities you have that you cannot have in other area, you know, another part of the world. That is super recommended. But for me, I would like to mention some that they have two things at the same time. So for example, one I highly recommended, and I know the Julie-Anne knows, is A Woman's Gardens from Tanya Anderson. You were saying about YouTube and Instagram and everything, and I follow her. You know, I knew about her through an episode of Gardener's World a few years ago, and I didn't know her, and I thought, wait, amazing, you know, how many things you can do with plants. So for me, I think it's a book to have at home, that you can go to YouTube, but it's not the same that you have to sit down, find the video, watch the video and everything. You know, if I want to do something, I go, okay, I know that this in this book, I'm going to check in the book. So it's a book to have at home. And there are some, you know, she has some collaborators, they're speaking about different things. For example, I love herbs. So there is a Reka Misley, I think is the name. I don't remember well the surname, that she speaks about herbs. And I would love her a new book because I heard that is very good about kitchen garden. But they are speaking about plants for dyeing purposes, like a sustainable way to put color in clothes and these kind of things. So I think it's very interesting. This year I couldn't do it, but it's in my goals to try to do something like that. And I think it's book like that is something different that perhaps a person is not expecting. And another recommendation that I will do is like a basic one. I don't know, you know, it is Grow Cook It from the people from Michael Kelly from the Grow
Oh,
Your
yeah.
Plants.
Yeah.
And I think is very good because you have 2 tips to know how to grow, but at the end you have some recommendation how to use it. That sometimes I think is the problem, and that is why I was interested in another one called from the Veg Patch from Kathy Slack. That also is 100 simple recipes based in 10 vegetables. So it's very good because you go and I say, okay, I have this. What do I do with it now?
Which are 200 courgettes that you have in the summertime, yeah? What are we going to do with those? Yeah, Julie-Anne, what about your books?
I have to say I've no vegetable books or
I didn't expect any
or anything like that, because this woman does not cook and I'm not afraid to say it. But I do have some garden books down here on my list. So I felt that if you were a new learning gardener and really wanted just some sound advice, the expert books, I kind of thought they were quite good. When I started off in our garden years ago, we got the flower expert, the shrub expert, the water expert, and they were lovely, very easy to read, straightforward, no nonsense. Dr. Hassan, I think, is the author of the books.
Yeah.
And the other thing I have down, obviously because of my bias for flowers and dried flowers, the girl Bex Partridge, she's 2 books, and both of those would be an amazing Christmas gift for those women who love flowers.
Yeah.
Everlastings and Forever Flowers is her more recent book, but I would be thrilled if I had them under. I hope my husband is listening. I would be thrilled if I had them under my Christmas tree this year.
Yeah, Everlastings was on the list last year. So,
okay.
Yeah, and Natasha dries flowers as well, so I can see the connection there. So that's brilliant. And the name of the first one again?
It's Forever Flowers. This is her latest book. So I would love to get that.
Brilliant. So am I to send the episode directly to your husband, or?
I hope he's listening. I was going to send it to him someday, and I was like, you need to listen, because if you get 1 or 2 things on the list, you're winning.
Okay, so we'll continue. We'll go away from the list for a second, and I'm going to put both of you on the spot. So, money, no object, gardening gift. So there's no upper limit on this, and something that you don't already have. What would it be?
I would like a pass to go and see all the gardens in Ireland. So like I would like a card or I don't know, an OPW card so that I could go and see every single garden that I wanted to get inspiration from in the country, up and down the country.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Andy, you want a chauffeur to go with that? You have it. There's no upper limit here. We can have a chauffeur as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I want the time off work. I want the annual leave. I want a night in a hotel while I'm there. Yeah, I mean, no expense spared.
That's a nice idea. That's a nice idea. I don't know that it exists. I know that if you sign up for membership at the RHSI, that includes access to their gardens and partner gardens, but it's certainly not all of the gardens in Ireland. So I suspect it doesn't exist, but that's a really nice idea. And I'd imagine, and I don't know if it's true, but I'd imagine, the certain garden trails would probably have passes for their trails. So the Dublin Garden Trail, for example, which includes loads of brilliant gardens. I'm sure they would have an annual pass or brilliant idea though. Really nice idea. Not what I expected you to say for your money no object present, but a really nice idea and one that hasn't come up on the episodes before. What about you, Stella?
Well, it's funny. I think, Juliana and myself, we have a lot of in common because one of the things that I have in my list was called, as a present, weekend away. That means that you have like a nice hotel with, to spend away, but that there are some gardens around and some cultural activities to enjoy away and that you can have fun, but at the same time enjoy your gardening and this kind of thing. So as he already mentioned it, I will go for something a bit more simpler, but it was also very expensive, that it will be like a bigger greenhouse. I have a gold frame and I dream and I call it that is my greenhouse, but the reality is also it's only a gold frame. So why not a greenhouse a little bigger than
Yeah, a nice greenhouse. That was actually last year, Natasha's gift that she was looking for was a greenhouse. I think she said she had begun manifesting it at that stage, and I know she has since got one, but she did go through a lot of hard work to get it. She got a reclaimed one and had to paint all the frame and everything. But a glasshouse is a beautiful, beautiful present. And again, it's something that you're going to get longevity of, and obviously a lot of benefit, in terms of being able to do a lot more propagation. It just gives you more ability to do things in the garden. And a nice glasshouse gives you a beautiful structure as well, somewhere you can sit in with your coffee, and it's not just a gardening gift. So yeah, lovely idea. So to get back to the list then, what's next on your list, Stella?
Well, I think I more or less went with everything. When I was doing the weekend away, my plan is, because I don't know a lot of gardens, and I in the weekend away plan for the gift, it was to visit like a Bantry house and go to a nice hotel, or to visit the Hunting Brook gardens, and I heard that is so beautiful and really, really nice. And if not, another idea, always good. And if you don't know what plant, because it's better not, sometimes it's better not to give a present of a plant to a gardener just in case, perhaps to go for a gift voucher or an gift voucher. So it's an email that you put the amount and they receive it, and they have wonderful, I don't know you have ordered from them, but Future Forest, for example, they work very well online, and the service and everything, the quality plants is very good. They have gift voucher online, so it's not a problem. The pavilion, again, Fruit Hill Farm, they have it also. So why not, it's another idea.
Yeah, again, I've mentioned gift vouchers before. They're gift vouchers, they're not, you're not putting a huge amount of thought into it, but you're not going to get it wrong either, because they're going to be very much appreciated. And if they're for somewhere, like you've mentioned, you know, some of those good garden centers, then the person is going to get something that they want for their garden with that. So
but
yeah,
it
no,
depends, because you know, if someone knows that I want the plant, but I cannot buy it myself because it's very expensive.
Yeah.
I don't know, like a tree or something like that. That's they always say it. And they know that you want it, and they give you a voucher because they know that you're going to use it. For me, that's, you know, it's going to give me a lot to achieve my goal to buy the, I don't know, the plant itself.
Yeah, for sure. It's a bit like what you were saying, Julie-Anne. You are putting a little bit of thought into it beforehand, and it's a bit more connected that way. What have you next on your list, Julie-Anne?
I have a garden journal to map the to-do list throughout the year, month by month. Aren't I very practical?
Brilliant. Yeah, that came up on last year's list, and it's a funny thing because I'm not good at that sort of stuff. I just kind of go with it, and
we do a true podcast. Like you. This is your journal, you know. But
maybe.
For the likes of people like me, I need to write it down. But this is your journal. Like I get this. Like for you, you're doing this. What to sow for July? What to sow for? You know, that's my. I just need a written one. I just need a journal that I throw into my pinny, and I pull it out, and I go, oh, I've sown those seeds, or I've, you know, prepared that bed, or, you know, whatever it is. But I feel you do it through the podcast. So, I mean, you know, for people who need the listen, and then for people who need the written, I would need the written.
Yeah. And I probably need the written as well, to be fair, because I know what I need to do. But if I have it written, I can do a checklist against it. And time is always the biggest enemy, I think, with a lot of us. But at least if you have sort of a to-do list, a written one, it kind of puts a little bit more pressure on you than maybe me saying it in the podcast and then not getting around to it for another 2 weeks. But yeah, no, a journal I think is a really good idea and an interesting one, because it does, I won't say force, but it kind of makes you keep sowing, because that's the biggest mistake that a lot of us make, is that we miss the little windows that we should be continuing at. And I think a journal, and you know, I know vegetables is not necessarily your main thing, but especially cut flowers, or like you have certain kind of dates and times and things that you need to be hitting, because if you don't, you're not going to have the beautiful bouquets or the flowers to dry at the end. So I think that is a really good and practical thing, and probably one that a lot of us don't utilize enough, something like that. Is there a particular one that you know of that's good?
No, I just, like, this is just one that I've picked up for next year, and it's something really simple, but it's my little, I'll start now putting in little things as I think of it. But as I said, like, obviously someone, you know, who's into gardening, who's thinking about flowers the way I think about flowers, it might be a handy one for them.
Yeah, and it's dated and all, is it? Is it
yeah,
dated?
It is, yeah, it's dated. Brilliant. Yeah, it's dated. It has the year, it has the goals. You can set yourself a to-do list, notes.
Brilliant.
Like, it's really, for me and for the busyness, this is what keeps me on track.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's brilliant. And where did you get that? Where would someone get that?
I'm trying to think. I think I got this in TK Maxx.
Okay.
Yeah, something as simple as that. And it has lovely flowers on it as well, which is really nice.
Yeah,
and it was, you know, it was relatively inexpensive, but it's nice, it's thoughtful, it'll keep you on track. And if you're a busy person like I am, I think it's helpful. It is definitely helpful. And especially, I would have dates for flowers for weddings or flowers for bouquets. It allows me to plan the year ahead, you know.
Yeah. What else have you got? Stella, you've no more on your list?
Well, I had the workshops, and I saw that, I love, I think I love a lot of your episodes, but I think one of my favorites to put more or less, Sam, is the one with Tanguy
Tanguy from Dunmore Country School.
Yes. Yeah. I would love to do some workshop with him. Yeah. So if someone give me a present for that, you know, it will be great.
Yeah. So we've mentioned courses before, and I'm at the end. I'm going to do a shameless plug for one of my new ones. But so you've Dunmore Country School does brilliant courses.
For companion planting, especially.
Companion planting.
That is my goal.
Yeah, he does brilliant ones on that. Actually, I did a 2-part episode with Tanguy on companion planting and lots of other things, and it's a strange one because the first part of that is number 3 in the most listened episodes of the podcast. It's a phenomenal amount of listens, but part 2, which is literally the follow on from it, it's all still connected, is way down the list. But part 1 is phenomenally well received. I don't know why there's a difference between the two of them, but yeah, he's brilliant, and his courses are worth checking out. There's a course that he does on beekeeping, but it's the native Irish bee that he does in a different type of the Warre hive, and it's one that I definitely want to do at some stage. So yeah, there's a couple of interesting ones there. There's other good courses as well. I know that Botanic Garden do a great course. Jimmy up in Huntingbrook, you mentioned him earlier. He has a phenomenally good book, actually. A Beautiful Obsession. I don't know if either of you have that book.
I haven't not yet.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous book. Really, really nice book. And again, a little bit like Classes books, it's very practical but also inspirational. So sometimes books are either one or the other. They're very inspirational but not very practical. But I think Jimmy's one really does marry the two together. And he does courses as well, lots of courses there, and those are worth checking out. Huntingbrook Gardens, Botanic Gardens, Dunmore Country School, all Irish companies delivering great courses. If it comes to vegetable growing, you have Coleman Power does a lot of courses as well. So there's loads of good courses. What would your thoughts on courses be, Julie-Anne?
Oh, absolutely. Anything that makes me more competent, more capable, not wasting money by stuff dying and planting them in the wrong place. I think I'm all for it. Anybody who can help me be better at this skill, definitely.
Yeah. And I know you had a course last weekend yourself in wreath making, obviously not specific to gardeners, that's a general course, but how did it go?
Yeah, great. Really well received. And I have another one this weekend and another one the 17th of December. So yeah, it's full on wreath making, but all, most of it grown in my garden. So yeah, it's great. It's
brilliant.
It's
all booked out?
No, I still have spaces on the 17th of December. So
brilliant. Give it a plug there as to where people can get the tickets then.
So they can follow me on Instagram, and they just need to DM me. I'm the Soulful Gardener Laois on Instagram, and they'll be held in Ballinakeel, County Laois.
Brilliant. And so the in-person workshop, and it's the creation of a Christmas wreath for and you take it away with you. You make your own and take it away. Brilliant.
That's it. Correct.
Really nice. And there, I think when you go to a course like that as well, I find from having run the in-person courses, you end up with a lot of very like-minded people at it. I don't know if you saw that at your course, Julie-Anne, and you get great conversation between the people because the people that are there are, as I say, like-minded, and they're all there for the same reason.
Yeah, I think people come for different reasons. Like, I think some people come just to do something nice with a friend or a family member, which is lovely. And then there's other people who are, I just need to connect my hands and my heart for a while, and I need to get out of my head, and I need to bring it all to my hands. And I would find that's what I'm finding more at my course. People who are just looking to connect hands and heart and just get out of the business of the mind, create something beautiful, be in a nice space with other like-minded people. And again, as I said, take away then something that's nice and that they'll have for a while, so that's what I would find most, that people are looking for the peace and quiet from their head and to create something beautiful. So
in a way, a therapeutic escape.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's probably just based on what you do and in your garden, that's probably what your, I suppose, encouraging anyway, isn't it? So
Yeah,
that's why you're attracting people who are looking for that, I guess. Yeah, brilliant. Well done. What about courses for yourself? So obviously done more country school you'd like to do. Is there any others that you'd like to mention, Stella?
I would like, I heard that the people from the brown envelope seeds, they are having some.
Yes, there's
I
a
need to check them.
seed saving course that they have definitely done. I don't know if it's.
I think they have in the website, I saw something sustainable gardening, or perhaps it's not the one that they are going to do next year. I don't know. I can check in the website. But I know that normally they have it, and Klaus Leidemann also have some very interesting ones. And in parallel, I love photography, and there is, I don't remember the surname. Ashley, she's an artist, but she works with plants for photography purpose, because there is a very huge movement for sustainable photography. So they use the plants to develop and to enlarge and to work with photography art. And I am involved on, I am want to get more involved on it. And I am going to, they're organizing a workshop, I think it's the Cork Library, that is free. And I am going. So I'm looking forward to it and be able to use the plants that I am growing in the garden to do something else.
Nice one. Yeah, that sounds interesting as well. You mentioned brown envelope seeds there, and I suppose there is several Irish seed companies, and they're definitely worth checking out. Seeds as a gift, again, is a bit like a plant. I suppose you do need to know that the person would want the seeds, but there is probably a certain amount of seeds that would be a nice and welcome gift, I would think, for people. Obviously, there's no point in buying a whole box full of vegetable seeds for Julie-Anne when she really wants flower seeds. But maybe with a bit of insight, as we said earlier, you could get seeds from some of these companies. And there's lots of Irish seed companies. There's Brown Envelope Seeds, there's Seedaholic, there's Seeds Ireland, there's
green vegetable seeds.
Green vegetable seeds, that's Klaus Leitenberger's.
And Seeds Ireland, yes, Seeds Ireland, yes.
Yeah, Seeds Ireland. And so there's lots of Irish companies there doing seeds, so they're all worth supporting as well. Anything else on your list, Julie-Anne?
I have a portable radio, battery operated, that you could maybe hook up to a garden podcast or Spotify. So I feel when I'm up in my polytunnel, I love to either listen to a bit of music or listen to a podcast while I'm up there. So I think a portable speaker that you can hook the phone up to, I think is a good one.
Nice idea. So a Bluetooth connected speaker. Nice one. Yeah. So they're hugely popular on sites now. Obviously, you have the big DeWalt ones. You're not talking about something as bulky as that, I think, are you?
No, not quite as big as that. Like
bite-sized. Bluetooth speaker. Yeah, brilliant. Nice idea, because a lot of people particularly in a polytunnel or a greenhouse, or if you're pottering around on a dry day, to have it close by. Yeah. Nice idea. Anything else on your list?
I have just time spent in the garden with loved ones, because those are the greatest gifts of all, memories.
Nice one. So I guess there's probably ways of doing that. If there's a nice greenhouse in there, you're sitting down with a cup of coffee, chilling out with your loved one, as you said, that's obviously a nice connection. Whether that's sitting under a tree or whatever it is, I think, and I know pets are a big feature in your garden, so they're all part of the memory and part of creating those memories, I guess. So I think, am I right in saying your list is finished, Julie-Anne, as well?
A subscription to a garden magazine, that's the last thing.
Oh, nice. And so Irish ones, you're talking about the Irish Garden, I guess, here. What else is there?
Irish Garden or Gardener's World. Anything that would improve the knowledge, and there's nothing as nice as sitting down with a cup of coffee and a little magazine, and I have all old garden magazines, and it it doesn't change. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like,
Yeah.
it's how you sow something, that's how it's done.
Yeah.
But, so you can have them and you can dip in and out of them.
Yeah.
So I do feel in a way they are sustainable,
Yeah.
and they're nice for the coffee table. And as I said, I don't have quiet time that often, but if and when I do, I'd like to sit down with a magazine, cup of coffee, and preferably it would be a garden magazine or flowers or something, along the lines of that.
Nice
So,
one.
subscription.
Yeah, and that's something I find with garden books actually, is that it's not like a a story or an autobiography or a fiction book where you pick up and you read it and that's it. I find with the gardening books, you'll never read it, true and true. You'll pick it up, you'll look for a reference point, you'll put it back down, you'll come back to it again. Maybe in 2 years' time, you'll remember, oh, there was something in that book, and you go look at it again. And it's one that you regularly dip into, and so it's always needed, but you'll never sit down and read it cover to cover and then that's it. So they're very much sustainable. And I think gardening books are probably one of the gardening books, and maybe cookery books are probably the two remaining things where you would keep dipping back into a book as opposed to maybe going online to find information.
Yeah,
that's true.
Before we start to round off, I got to do a shameless plug, as I said, for gardening course. So I have Grow Your Own Food course, which is an online course. The initial launch of it is just under 5 hours of how to grow your own food from start to finish, and it's covers herbs, fruit, and vegetables. That's going live on the website this week, and there's another course almost ready. It takes a little bit of time to pull it together, but it's fully recorded. It's a good one with Sandra Cafola on how to grow a wildflower meadow. And they're the first two. There's 3 more courses being added next year. These are all online courses being added early next year. Myself and Julie-Anne had some initial discussions on possibly collaborating on something. We need to get back to that at some point. But all of those courses will be live in the next week or so. And then I am running next year a membership. So where we start in January 24, runs for the whole year. You have access to all of the courses that are there, so the online courses, but there's also access to monthly Zooms, or even in the busy months, we might have bi-monthly Zooms, and we'll have guest speakers. So if there's a particular topic that's, whether that's whatever it is, different topics, whether it was dry flowers, Julie-Anne might be the guest speaker on a given month, or Klaus Mlatenberger might be, a guest speaker on a given month. And that's a monthly membership that's starting in January 24. That won't be ready for Friday, I don't think, when this episode goes out, but it is in the pipeline. And a little bit of a shameless plug for some of the stuff that's on the way from Master My Garden this year.
Sounds very interesting. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah. So I think we've kind of covered a very good list. We've had some new products there. Final question to both of you: what's the best gardening gift you have received so far? So we've talked about the money no object. What's the best one you've received so far?
My urn, my beautiful floral urn. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Brilliant. And was that a birthday or a Christmas gift?
It was a birthday, but
it's still a gift.
A great garden gift, I would consider it. Yeah.
Brilliant. And I'm not sure if that particular urn came from Kilkenny Architectural Salvage, but I know it did.
It came from the Architectural Salvage Yard in Kilkenny, yeah.
Brilliant. So you're a big fan of theirs anyway, and we had them on the podcast, and they do a lot of, that type of gift. So it's going to be something that's, well, they do a lot of new stuff, but there's also pre-loved stuff there, and this is something that you'll get as a gift. It'll be something that you'll have in your garden for years, generations to come. And, you'd be able to say that I got that back in 2024. And
they do garden investments. Like their presents are investments.
Yeah.
But they last forever.
Forever, yeah. And yeah, really a lot of statement pieces and things as well. And obviously the pre-love stuff is great. It keeps it in the system as such.
Yeah.
So what about yourself, Stella?
I will go back to the rose. I think for the personal value, because it was coming from my parents-in-law. They were coming to Ireland for a visit, and for the memories of the moment that they were here after the COVID and everything, they were able to come. And because it's a beautiful rose. I think it's called Leonardo da Vinci rose. It's like a pink one.
Yeah.
But it's for the value and a big pot.
Yeah.
Ceramic that is not at the beginning was with the rose, after no, but it's like you say, it's a pot that you can be planting for years to come, and you will always remember who was giving to you.
Yeah. I think that's a really, really important thing when it comes to plant as a gift. As I said, it is a tricky one, because you could end up like the gardener that I was talking about that got a gift, appreciated it, but didn't really want it. But when you have a connection like that, you know, whether that's the snowdrops to Julie-Anne's grandmother, or the rose gift after seeing them after COVID, you know, there's connections there. And, you know, not so much recently, but certainly in the first 2 years of the podcast, there was so many people who spoke about having plants in their garden from their grandparents, and it a lot of the time it does tend to be grandparents for some reason, and it's a really nice connection, and that's a connection that will go further on. And you know, when 20 years time, 50 years time, you know, this came from my grandmother, and I think they're brilliant connections. And it's something that you see in gardens that maybe you don't see elsewhere. So there's not many other gifts that you're going to hand down, with the exception of jewelry, maybe, that's going to be around for 50 years, you know. You know, whether that's a lovely vase on the mantelpiece that gets knocked over. I have a story there, but I won't. I better not tell it on there. I broke a very sentimental vase to somebody one time by accident. So, but the point I'm making is that these things typically don't last long. Jewelry does, and plants do. So I think they are really a special gift. So as we start to round off, I think we've had a really great list. Thank you very much to Julie-Anne and Stella for coming on. Your lists were brilliant, very well researched, and I think people will definitely find gifts in it. Hopefully the right people are listening to put some of these gifts under Julie-Anne and Stella's tree. And yeah, hopefully you found some inspiration from this. It's going out on the first Friday of December, so it still gives people lots of time. Don't go buying plants unless you know the connection. We've established that during the episode. But no, it's been a really, really interesting chat. 2 great lists, and thank you both for coming on Master My Garden podcast.
Thank you to you.
Thank you.
So that's been this week's episode. Really enjoyed that. Yeah, two great lists again, and it's great to see, you know, a lot of similarities between the 2 lists, and also some connections back to the previous year's lists. I think whatever presents you are buying this year, as much as possible, whether you're listening in the US or the UK or in Ireland, try and support local as much as you can. And there's loads of, you know, producers, growers, and companies operating in wherever you're living, and try and support local as much as possible. And yeah, next week's episode is a really interesting one around, it's with Niall Hatch from Birdwatch Ireland, and we're talking about wild birds in the garden, how to attract them in, and so on. So again, a really interesting episode, and a very topical one as the weather starts to cool down at the moment. So that's been this week's episode. Thanks for listening. Until the next time, happy gardening.